Okay, so I started to look in a little deeper into the history of sedevacantism in general and the CMRI in particular. And I found that, sedevacantism does have its founder, right? I don't know if you'd say it's the best kept secret or the worst kept secret of the sedevacantists, right? Francis Schuckert. We don't like to talk about him. Okay. The guy had some problems, to say the least. Um, that's where this ideology came from. Okay. Um, when I started to look at Francis Schuckert a little closer, okay, I found basically what I found was the exact opposite of a saint. Okay. Now, I know a little bit about church history. I know a little bit about some of these great saints. When there were times of crisis in the church, how God would raise up like a great saint, right? Like Saint Francis of Assisi, um, Saint Saint Francis de Sales, Saint Ignatius, right? These great reformer saints, okay? Extraordinarily holy men. Many of them credited with some pretty incredible miracles, right? So I see I see when the church is in trouble, we got a saint, okay. um, and so here I'm looking at this Vatican II thing, and the guy that comes with the answer is Francis Schuckert, right? From my perspective, right, as a sedevacant, this is the true answer, right? This is what I think. And I'm thinking the guy God sent to give us the answer is Francis Schuckert, the exact opposite of a saint. Okay? Not extraordinarily holy, but extraordinarily unholy. Okay? Objectively. Just looking at what's public knowledge. Okay? No miracles. Okay? He's the founder of sedevacantism. What I am thinking is the true answer to this great crisis. Okay? It just didn't make sense to me. Right off the bat. Okay? It just didn't make sense to me. So if God didn't send Francis Schuckert, okay, now all of the marks of people that God does send to show us the way, okay, we see extraordinarily holiness of life and we see miracles. That's what we see. Okay, God sent Moses. What did Moses do? Well, he parted the Red Sea, right? When Moses told the Pharaoh, if let the people go, or this thing's going to happen, right? And what happened when Pharaoh didn't let the people go? Well, the thing Moses said was going to happen, it actually happened, right? So you can see God stood by Moses, right? He showed people that, okay, Moses is in fact sent by me, okay? This is what I'm trying to explain in a very poor way, okay? I'm just giving the one example there. So if I look at Francis Schuckert, okay, and I don't see any of the marks in him. In fact, I see the opposite, okay, of everybody else that God's ever sent, okay, a prophet or, okay, Moses, St. Paul, go down the list. St. John the Baptist, okay, go down the list. All right, we see the marks on these people that would really show us that these people were in fact sent by God, right? So Francis Schuckert doesn't have that. He has the opposite of that. So I can look at this guy objectively and say, God did not send this man, okay? God did not send him. So the church got corrupted at Vatican II, the structure of the church. Okay, everybody's misled. Nobody saw it. Nobody understood that the Pope was a heretic and lost his office. Nobody understood that the Novus Ordo Mass was a Protestant heresy, invalid. Nobody understood that the new ordinations, priestly ordinations or ordination to bishop, okay, nobody understood that that was invalid, okay? Nobody understood that Vatican II instituted heretical doctrine to the universal church. Nobody understood that, right? I couldn't find anybody making those claims, okay? Cardinal Ontaviani missed it. Fulton Sheen missed it. Archbishop Lefebvre missed it. Like, nobody saw it, right? They're all too stupid. They all didn't know their faith well enough, okay? Or they're all heretics themselves, okay? Nobody objected to Vatican II, the new Mass, the ordinations, okay, on the grounds of heresy and invalidity, okay? And I understand that Archbishop Lefebvre had issues, okay? But as far as invalid, okay, the Pope instituted heresy to the church, you know, these things that we believe as sedevacantist, okay, no. He didn't make those judgments. Neither did Cardinal Ontaviani. Neither did Fulton Sheen. Neither did Archbishop Tuck. Okay, so these are some people that I identify as, you know, Orthodox Catholics. Okay, and in the case of Ontaviani, you know, great theologian, especially sacramental theology. Right. Well, he missed it. Right. Archbishop Lefebvre did have problems with the new Mass, but they weren't the same problems that the sedevacantists have, okay? In fact, I found out that he permitted his seminarians in Icon to attend the Novus Ordo Mass, okay? Let's look at Tuck, right? He never had any issues with it, right? Well, then we would say, well, yeah, but later on he recognized it, right? He declared sedevacantism, right? He ordained sedevacantist clergy, right? We would say that. So he came around, okay? Then I found out with him, you know, shortly after he declared sedevacantism, ordained a sedevacantist bishop, we find him offering the Novus Ordo Mass, okay? Cardinal Ontaviani, we point to his letter, the Ontaviani intervention, okay, but we don't point to the fact that there was a second letter that he issued after clarifications were made, where he stated one can no longer have any reservations regarding the Novus Ordo Mass, and he ended up accepting the Novus Ordo Mass, right? Archbishop Lefebvre didn't have issues with the Novus Ordo Mass on the grounds that it's invalid, or on the grounds that it has instituted a heretical Protestant definition of the Mass, right? He missed it. Fulton Sheen, did he just all of a sudden become an idiot? He this great theologian, this great teacher of the faith, right? All of a sudden, he just like became an idiot and he just missed all this stuff. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to present here is I became confronted with this fact that all these men in the church who were well-schooled in theology, okay, most of them, and I'm talking at the time of Vatican II and the new Mass, okay, the vast majority of them, if not maybe all of them even, were trained and schooled in the church prior to Vatican II with solid theology, right? And none of them saw it. They all missed it. They didn't know their faith well enough. They were too stupid, or they're all heretics themselves. Okay? Nobody saw it. So here's what I'm being confronted with, okay? The entire universal church was full of people that didn't know their faith well enough, and they were too stupid, and or too stupid. Ignorant, right? They all followed the false pope right into a false church, and they, like, nobody saw it, right? So they're all idiots. Okay? But Francis Schuckert saw it. He saw the truth, right? This guy who is the exact opposite of a saint, who I can identify objectively was not sent by God, right? He saw it. Okay, so the entire universal church and everybody in it, even including the traditionalists, okay, they're too dumb to see what took place here. They're too stupid. So here's what I realized. Francis Schuckert's the dummy in this equation. He's the idiot in this equation. Okay? I'm following an ideology that was presented as a solution by an idiot. I'm following the teaching of an idiot over here. Okay? Because the only other way I can look at it is everybody else is stupid. Okay? Everybody else is stupid. So that was really a big red flag, being confronted with this, just looking at this thing from a bird's eye view. Okay? And I know that, the Society of Pius X, kind of took a more hard position against the Novus Ordo, as time went on and all this stuff. I recognize there's distinctions here and everything. Okay, I understand that, but what I'm talking about here is nobody on planet Earth, literally nobody, was saying that the Catholic Church changed the definition of the Mass to a heretical Protestant definition. Okay, that's sedevacantism. And the SSPX people that kind of lean towards that, all right, they're getting that from sedevacantists. Because that was not, at least as far as I can tell, that was not Archbishop Lefebvre's position. I recall hearing a talk given by Bishop Williamson where the issue of the Novus Ordo was raised. Okay, could a traditional Catholic who has no way of getting to a traditional Latin Mass, okay, could that person in principle attend the Novus Ordo? And he said that Archbishop Lefebvre's position was that the Novus Ordo is like a slippery slope, okay? It can lead you into heresy. It can weaken your faith, okay? But it doesn't require that. It doesn't require you to believe heresy. It doesn't require you to lose your faith, okay? And for that reason, he doesn't recommend you go. He doesn't want you to go, but could you go? Yeah, right? Well, that's kind of up to your personal discernment, is pretty much what he said. So even Bishop Williamson admitted that, okay? And he's kind of known as one of the more radical, bishops there in the SSPX. So what I'm trying to explain here is this idea that the new Mass is heretical, it's invalid, all this stuff. This is sedevacantist stuff. This is not traditional Catholic, what traditional Catholics as a whole maintain, okay? And another thing I became confronted with is, my beliefs as a sedevacantist regarding the Novus Ordo, regarding Vatican II, all this stuff, okay? They're not beliefs that I arrived at through my own study. Okay. Like, I didn't go and get my degree in sacramental theology and then go figure this stuff out. Okay. I didn't open up the books and read the Vatican II Council and figure this stuff out. Okay. I didn't study the Novus Ordo liturgy and go figure it out that it's heretical and it's invalid and all this other stuff. Okay. I didn't study the ordination rites with my sacramental theologian hat on and figure out that it's invalid. How did I arrive at all these beliefs that I hold? Well, I hold them because my sedevacantist clergy tell me to, and I trust them, right? Well, where did they get it from? They got it from Francis Schuckert, okay? The vast majority of the CMRI clergy, okay, at least the first generation, the older ones, Bishop Prevunas, okay, my priest, the priests that I know, okay, they were all formed they were raised in the CMRI under Francis Schuckert. They went to his school. They learned under his leadership, under his instruction. Okay, when later they went to the seminary, they were trained under Francis Schuckert with his ideologies. Okay. Francis Schuckert's not a theologian. He has no credentials in theology. Okay, and we already know the guy's a wacko. Okay. So, somebody might point to Father Cicada and say, well, I'm not in the CMRI. I follow it because Father Cicada has given good arguments and all this stuff, right? Well, Father Cicada wasn't a sedevacantist, at least, kind of formally, until like the mid-'80s. Okay, and all of a sudden, you think he just opened up a book and figured it out? These arguments for sedevacantism have been out there since the early 70s, okay? And we know where it came from. Some of the more deeper arguments came from a layman in Australia, Patrick Ulmer, okay? Again, no credentials in theology. He wrote a book, I forget the title of it, but he wrote a book in the early 70s and going over, his arguments for why, the sacraments are invalid and everything's invalid after Vatican II, okay? The sedevacantists, primarily the CMRI at that time, and a few very small oddball wacko groups here and there, okay? They got a hold of that book and they read that. It confirmed everything they already believed, right? So they took those arguments from him as their own, okay? That's what I discovered. That's where I discovered the ideology came from and the arguments that are used even to this day, okay? Non-theologian, wacko. I hesitate to call him a wacko, okay? I'm not a psychologist, okay? I say that because that's pretty much everybody that knows the facts about Francis Schuckert would tell you the guy was way out there, okay? That's all. Okay, from him, and then this guy, again, no credentials in theology, layman in Australia, wrote a book, right? That's where it came from. So I'm asking myself, being confronted with this, okay, I'm asking myself, where is God in this equation, right? So God either allowed or he abandoned the church. Okay, he allowed the enemies of the church to take over the church, mislead the entire universal church into heresy. Okay, could never have happened unless God allowed it. And God couldn't have allowed it unless he left that church. Okay, because if he stayed with that church, he didn't abandon that church, the enemies of the church could have never taken it over. okay? So God allows that to happen. And then God sends nobody with the answer, right? For the traditionalists. So I'm talking from my perspective as a sedevacantist, okay? So Archbishop Lefebvre saw problems, but he didn't have the answer, right? As a sedevacantist, I would point to Lefebvre in the Society of Pius X, and I would say that's not the right answer, okay? The ideas that they promote are schismatic. It's not the right attitude that a Catholic should have regarding the Pope. So that's not a true answer, okay? I'm looking at Francis Schuckert. I know God didn't send him, okay? I know he was not sent by God, okay? He came in his own name, all right? So I know that. So where is God in this equation? Where is the good shepherd that does not abandon the sheep? Okay. So those are just some general points that I became confronted with that raised some big giant red flags for me. That was one of several points that eventually really caused me to go back and do my homework on what it is I am believing as a sedevacantist.